Hi, welcome back. Today I'm drawing with the August Scrawlrbox. They sent some lovely Sennelier oil pastels in two different types of paper. I'm starting on the smaller Sennelier paper. I think these are about A6, maybe a little bit smaller. And the other pad is A5 drawing paper. I'm putting these down in layers and just blending them in. These pastels are very creamy. I mean, like really, really creamy and go down really well. This is a really cool way of getting the kind of fluffy cloud effect. You just put down some white pastel first and then dab the blue on your finger and spread it out quite unevenly on purpose, and then when you actually look back at it, it looks like very fluffy clouds. This is a very basic little picture, and I'm not going to take the time to do any scratches or put too much detail in it because it's actually really tiny and kind of hard to get any detail into it. But I'm going to have a good proper go on a bigger piece of paper now. I'm sorry about the camera focus here, it's taken me a minute to sort it out. But I'm now trying to do a much more complex drawing of a waterfall scene with more depth and sort of feel of movement. I pulled out my paintbrushes and decided to use a dilutant. I just got this bottle of Sennelier dilutant for oils or oil pastels. The one I normally use is odorless dilutant by Winsor & Newton, so I figured this is actually a perfect time to try this out with the Sennelier pastels. Let's see how it goes. I'm putting down some colors onto my palette and then adding a little bit of the dilutant and mixing them up with my brush. So I've got a light green for the tops of the rocks that are basically in the light, in the sun. And then I'm going to use some darker greens at the bottom where it's more shadowy, and then see how I need the colors to mix, really, because I plan to probably need 2 or 3 greens, and I can mix them by just adding more or less blue or more or less yellow and so on. After putting down my highlights, I decided to go in with the darkest green to sort of give all the rocks their basic shapes, and then I can see where I can blend in the mid-tones and give them more sort of shape, and if they need more dense or if they need more roundness, then I can blend it out as I go. With the mid-tones, I've mixed a sort of more yellowish green as opposed to the bottom shade, which is sort of bluish, and I'm applying it more densely at the bottom near the darkest area, and then I'm sort of, instead of lightening it with the yellow, I'm diluting it more to blend it into the lighter green as it goes up. Now, nothing in nature is ever even, so I'm applying this paint very patchily because what it does is it gives the effect of rough surfaces. You know, some bits kind of look like they have dents and bulges, and it just it looks really rough when I'm doing it, but then it all comes together and looks more natural. Now I'm using a very, very diluted black to give shadows and shapes to the rocks, like using it to round them off and bring some of them forward and push some of them back. Shadows tend to have that effect, and just making things look a little bit more actually 3D sort of. I'm picturing my light source is coming from this sort of top right sort of area, so I'm making this a lot brighter than the rest. You can see how the rocks in the top half look a lot flatter than the rocks in the bottom half. So I've still got to go in with that black and just add all the shadows and bring them to life. Now I'm ready to add the water, just cleaning off my palette so I can put a new set of colors down. I'm starting by just throwing down a few darker blue lines to indicate the direction of the flow, and then filling it in with a sort of mid-tone blue. I can then add highlights and lowlights. Because this water is moving, I don't want to paint it with a single sort of tone of blue and make it look very flat. It'll be hard to bring it back from that. So I'm painting it right away with small strokes of slightly different shades, sometimes a little more green, sometimes a little more blue, sometimes a little more white. But I consider all of these a sort of mid-tone because I'm going to be adding darker blues and pure whites afterwards. This bit was a bit harder to fill in with a tiny brush, but again, I didn't want to make it look flat by just painting it all with one big brush. So to keep the sort of movement and flow going, I just carried on with a small brush and continued in the same sort of way, mid-tones, slightly changing it, a little bit here, a little bit there as I go. At this point I feel like the water in this section really isn't looking right, but I just carry on adding highlights and lowlights and directional flow. Just remember, if a painting doesn't look right, it just means it isn't finished. Well, this is the best part. For some reason the foam just really brings it to life. And now it's coming together and starting to look like what I had in mind. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more random art.